We are live.
All right. Sounds good to me.
I say it's setting up your meeting for Facebook Live.
Okay.
Screen I see.
Awesome. I wonder, can I watch it, do you think, on my other
Yes,
screen?
you can. It is just going to be a delay when you do.
So it'll probably make me crazy.
Yeah, when I did it the other day. So we're live. So welcome everybody to,
Hey.
I have the pleasure of having, just really having a great discussion with Nicki Burnett. Nicki, take the time, introduce yourself. Tell us who you are.
Cool, yeah. So just so everybody knows, we have this on both of our Facebook pages. So anybody on any of our pages can see this. So this is a really cool thing. I think that we are in two totally separate places and streaming live on both of our pages. So I think it's really fun. But for those of you who don't know, I'm Nicki Burnett. I'm a functional nutritionist. I usually work with humans. That's what my training is in, but I have my master's in animal science. So my love is horses and dogs. Don't have any horses right now, so dogs are it for me. And so Matt and I got together and started just chatting about health and nutrition, both in humans, but then of course in dogs, because we both have that just pull to really help our little furry family members just be healthy, because they're not. I mean, we're having some really big issues with our animals, and so much of it is because we're told that the food that we feed them is healthy, and these big companies know their nutrition better than we do, and it's a big problem. So we wanted to get together and just talk about health. Let's talk about people. Let's talk about dogs. Let's talk about whatever we can talk about that is the real raw truth.
Absolutely. And I'm Matt Rowe. For everybody on Nicki's channel, I'm Matt Rowe. My background, I'm an industrial psychologist, but something that I found is I went through my own health issues and health challenges. And so I became a health coach and did all the studies for it and ended up actually reversing multiple sclerosis in myself.
I love that. I love that so much.
And actually managed all my symptoms. When my doctor, I remember 3 years ago, looking me dead in the eye and saying I'd be in a wheelchair in 7 months if I didn't take the drugs. And I said, nah, that doesn't seem right. So I treated it with a whole food diet. And then it dawned on me, our pets, and now granted, I've been in the pet industry for 7 years, and really there was a stat that I heard at a show where 50% of dogs over the age of 10 will die of cancer. And that's preposterous to me. They can't say that there is something directly related to this stat as it's increasing, where if you listen to Dr. Judy Jasek, the cancer vet, she'll tell you that it's 2/3 of dogs over the age of 10 will have cancer. So when I started to look into it a little bit more, and even on the side of my own health, is you find out that, Nicki, you hit it right on the head. It's the food we eat. It's the kibble industry. It's these large food companies that are putting things into a dog's diet because they don't see them as an actual family member. They see them as property, so they don't stringently hold to these standards and really of what should be in a pet food, down from the byproducts that they use, or how they're allowed to put the byproduct of ethanol when they make pet food.
It's sick. It's sick. Yeah.
So, Nicki, you have 3 dogs.
I do.
Yeah.
So I have 3 girls. I went from 2 boys to 3 girls, and they're all Carolina dogs. And they are the first 2. I mean, I've had dogs throughout my whole life, but my 2 boys were my lesson in everything that is animal. You know, I went to school for animals, but those 2 boys helped me to learn and to understand. And even though I lost them both to cancer, because was it mistakes that I made? Was it not? I did feed them kibble for a while, longer than I should have. But they were what catapulted me into just this learning and the realization of the insane amount of cancers that these animals are dealing with, and where they potentially could come from. My first one was osteosarcoma. And so what is being shown potentially, and I know you know this, and but a lot of people don't, and I want to have a show just on water by itself, but is that the fluoride in the water is increasing this incidence of osteosarcoma in dogs, and I believe also in children. And it's a nasty, nasty disease, and it is gaining and growing exponentially, and it's terrible. It's awful.
Yeah, you brought up a really good point about water quality. I mean, I still am baffled by the fact that we allow a neurotoxin to be put into our water stream and we all accept it because it's been done for years. So yeah, your dog. So if when we look at dogs in health, there are the canary in the coal mine. I mean, they're going to, yeah, I mean, if we're feeding our dogs kibble, and if you do, we're not here to demonize you or make you feel bad for feeding kibble. We're just making you aware that there is a better way to do it. But along those sides, feeding kibble to your dog is the equivalent of feeding your kids cornflakes every day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You know what? If I eat cornflakes every day, my hair is going to fall out, and gosh, I'm going to itch like crazy when I do that. Yeah. And so, you know, it's something we pointed to with the company that I own now, which is Parsley Pet. We took a look at what are all the nutrient deficiencies that are inside the body based on our world today. Because as you look at soils today, are 80% less nutrient dense than they were 70 years ago. And it's all the chemicals we're spraying on all these fields are killing all the microbiota within it. So now we have dead soils that we're trying to grow food. So we just keep pumping chemicals on top to get the food to grow, because I can trick that one, but it doesn't trick our bodies.
Right. So do that. Talk a little bit about your company, because I got to tell you, so if you're on my Facebook feed, then you probably already know that I'm a super geek when it comes to labs. This is how I work with my clients, and I love labs and I love the data. And then I meet Matt, and he's got functional dog labs, and I'm like, wait, what? And I'm just stoked, because when I have access to, you know, one or two, but this is like taking us to a different level, right? And this is stuff that we have access to that a lot of most vets don't do. More of your integrative functional vets are going to, but this is, I mean, this just opens up a whole world, because for one, when I talk with my clients, and I'm talking about, you know, biochemical individuality, genetic individuality, environmental individuality, everything that we are is totally different than anybody else, right? But we don't see that with dogs or with animals, right? We don't see them as different. We clump them into the same, well, one dog is the same as the next dog is the same as the next dog, and it makes zero sense. And so the fact that we now have the ability, and it's getting bigger and better, and this is where I wanted you to expand on, to look at their, you know, what their nutrient deficiencies and their heavy metals and all of these things. I mean, it's the coolest thing, and it's eye-opening.
No, it is, and that's what we found. Is so in my journey, when I was looking at what was wrong with me and how did I get diagnosed with this, a seemingly healthy guy, I wanted to know what was going on inside my body. So I conducted a hair tissue mineral analysis test. And what this told me was the 48 nutrients inside my body. And it told me the levels that I had, because if you have too much, it's harmful. And if you have too little, it's harmful. But the only way that I can get nutrients inside my body is through food and the water I drink. So because of that, I started to see, when I got my results back, I was deficient in magnesium. I was deficient in cobalt. I was deficient in some nutrients. I had no idea why they were in my body, but they were all viable. And also I saw that I had an increased exposure to mercury, not dangerous levels yet, but my mercury had increased. So I said, okay, I've got to change this. And then it dawned on me, after we had to put our beloved Doc down 4 years ago, because all we fed Doc was kibble. Every day. And Doc went from running, sprinting through fields and streams to me having to put her down 1 month later because she just all of a sudden couldn't even get up over the door sill. And had all these masses that formed on her body. And so being in the industry, I looked at it and said, is there a way for us to test dogs and the exposure to the toxins that they are receiving in our environment? Because as you know, a dog, when you take your dog for a walk, its nose is on the ground. When you go for a walk, Nicki, is your nose on the ground?
Not usually, no.
I can't imagine.
Maybe once or twice.
It'd be very weird that if you're driving in Nicki's neighborhood and you're like, oh my God, she's got her nose on the ground. But no, this is where they're pulling up all the chemicals from all the fertilizers that are being put on lawns.
Their bare feet.
Right. And right through the pads of their feet as well. They don't wear shoes. And so then we started to take a look at, is there a way to test and can we do this for dogs? So when we started to do that, we found a lab out of Texas, the most reputable lab for hair tissue mineral analysis.
Yeah, I use it.
Then we started testing dogs. And the data that we got back was eye-opening. Also, we partnered with one of the top holistic vets in the industry, Dr. Lori Koger, that took a look at all of the reports that we got back and analyzed them. And then we were allowed to give objective data to where the dog was out of balance. So the best story I have is there's a really good blogger. Her name is Kimberly Gutier out of Washington. She's been blogging for 7 years, and she is a raw feeding guru, and I would say a raw feeding specialist. So Kimberly wanted us to test Rodrigo, one of her dogs that had severe itching. And they couldn't figure it out. And they kept giving it pharmaceuticals that she did not want her dog to be on. So we get the test results back, and Rodrigo's boron levels were through the roof. And so once we started to take a look at boron, and then Dr. Koger is like, what is Kim wash her bowls in? And when we asked that question, Kim's like, oh, Dawn dish soap. Now, Dawn dish soap is not bad, but it has the highest level of borax in the industry. And because her dog was licking its bowl 2 to 3 times a day, it just over time started to get excess levels of boron in its system. As soon as she stopped washing the bowls, about 2 weeks later, the itching subsided.
Amazing.
This is how important nutrients are within our body. So for dogs, you'll see calcium deficiencies. But something, it takes a look at, I don't think a lot of people go towards hair tissue mineral analysis, is because of the correlations and the complexity of the tests and the complexity of the data that we get back.
Yeah.
And to have Dr. Koger analyze all these, she can tell that if your dog has an overabundance of copper, it may not be due to feeding too much copper or having water comes through copper pipes. So getting water from the copper pipes. And it's not that they're getting too much, it's that their zinc level is low because zinc chelates copper out and allows it to come more in balance instead of it being in this dichotomy.
Right. Interesting. So I'll tell you, this will be kind of a fun, progressive conversation, this particular point. And I think I told you a little bit about it yesterday, but I have a friend and a client whose dog, this is a word that I had not heard before, but she was suffering from, hold on, it's right here, lymphangiectasia. Okay. So essentially, it's a systemic inflammatory condition where the lymph vessels just close up. And so the swelling and the pain and the inflammation, and it's one of those things. And so then on top of that, there are lots of nutrient deficiencies because they're not absorbing their foods. And so what they've done, they don't know what to do except to give steroids and to put on specific prescription diets. And so she was here just before this. And so she came over, I gave her your test kit. And I told her, it's like, this is what we're going to do for food. We're going to change up his food entirely. We're going to, slowly do this change and put him on an anti-inflammatory diet, digestive enzymes, medium chain triglycerides. We're going to change this dog unless there's something underlying going on with this dog, a cancer or something that's creating the issue. That's the stuff that we don't know yet. but I'm super stoked about it because your lab and the results that are going to come back from that are going to give us a lot of information that are going to help us with this little guy that has a lot of life left in him. And I can't even tell you how excited I am.
I am too. And this is why we do what we do, is because we know we can make change and we can improve that puppy's life. And you know what? And you pointed it too, is, you know, with all of my health coaching, everything I've done, I went after the mindset of the game, and I ended up writing a book called The Identity of Health. And it wasn't just the food as medicine that I believe halted what I did. It was really my mindset and my meditation and my thought process around my own health. But case in point, when my dog is sick, my health suffers because that's all I can think about and it's all I worry about. And so really having this symbiotic relationship, we have relationships with our pets, they're family members. So when they are sick, when this dog is sick that you just saw, and this woman, it tears at her heart.
Yeah.
It increases her stress levels, and it increases so much on that side that I think really not only can we improve the health of this dog by pointing to and getting the transition over to more of a raw-based diet and more of a whole food diet for this dog, but it's gonna transverse over into her own health as well, because her stress is gonna come down and her worry is gonna come down.
I agree, and I think that it's scary because it's this little vicious cycle, because the dog's gonna feel her stress too, and it goes and goes and goes and goes. And I had to think about that with my boys when I was losing my boys. It's how do you hide? How do you not just let that fear and that terrible feeling of knowing what's going on out? I don't know how to do it, but I logically know that I don't want them to see me cry and I don't want them to feel me stressed and being sad, but holy smokes, I was really sad.
I mean, really, when you lose your boys like that, holy cow, they talk about ripping your heart out. And even when I taught the class last night, I teach a class, you know, every week in regards to essential nutrients.
I want to go to your class, by the way.
What, pardon?
Said I want to go to your class, by the way.
Oh, we're going to have another one. And I have a live one coming up that'll be good. So those essential nutrients and all that type of stuff. But really, when you look at a dog that's in that moment and it pulls at your heartstrings, as you very well know, when stress increases, it actually increases inflammation.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the body is out of balance and fighting to stay in homeostasis, which is keeping you alive. And so with all of that, you're going to see increased hormone production. You're going to see increased lymph node production. You're going to see all of these increases. And actually, minerals are affected by stress. That's why in our test, we can actually point to thyroid conditions before blood work can. And before
that's amazing. I didn't know that.
Yeah, because it has to do with phosphorus and magnesium. If I see both of those levels low, those actual nutrients aren't being absorbed into the system, because that's something with that HTMA test. I get to see your nutrients at an intracellular level. And what that means is, as you eat food and it absorbs into your body to be used for energy production, I get to see that. I get to see how it's absorbing. Where if you look at blood, it's extracellular. Blood's a transport mechanism, sending it to all the organs, muscle, everywhere we need to go. But when it looks at hair, hair traps that data like rings on a tree over time, because hair is created from clusters of matrix cells.
Yeah. That's amazing. Okay, so I want to know from you, and I want to know, and then I'm going to tell you a couple of things that you've done to change the way that I feed, but I want to know how you feed you have just one right now?
I have two. I have Mr. Cha-Cha, a 14-year-old Chihuahua.
That's right, I knew that.
I don't think I was bitten last night, but it's usually 3 or 4 times a week we get bit by him.
That's kind of what Chihuahuas do, right?
Right. And when my wife comes home, the heavens open and the world ends, and just jumping and all around. For us, he's like, so you're here. And then we have a Catahoula, Louisiana leopard hound. So, and
they're so beautiful.
they're gorgeous, but their hind legs allow them to jump over a 6-foot fence.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Self walks. So whenever he's bored, he's out in the backyard, he's playing around. He's like, I want to go do something different. He just jumps over the fence.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's also
I get it.
so how I
I
feed
have
both of these guys. So what I did is I found a really good raw food provider. So there are great companies, no matter where you're at on the planet, there are great companies that have actually sourced meats and they formulate a diet based on AFCO standards and based on good nutritional standards. And they formulate a diet and they provide this to the community. So for example, there's one in Miami, there's one in San Francisco Raw. And I buy one here from Colorado Raw Dog. And so we buy those and it comes in 2-pound sleeves of meat and I'll slice off. And so really what I base off of 2.5% of Leo and Chacha's body weight. So that comes out to be, he's a 60-pound dog. So that comes out to, I feed him 1.5 pounds of food a day. I have a little scale and I measure out 0.75 pounds for his breakfast. And then it's going to be a proportion of that meat that is bone and organ mixed with muscle meat, because if you got to feed your dog like it was wild. So Leo would kill a rabbit in the field and eat the rabbit. So I match that. And then also what I do is I add tripe to come up to that full amount that he needs to eat, because tripe is the actual broken down food inside the cow's stomach. And that provides enzymes and all these key essential nutrients that your dog needs. And that's really what I do for both of them. And then every third day, I'll crack an egg into their bowl, just a raw egg. And then 3 days after that, I'll give him sardines, because something I want him to have the bone from the sardines and at those the EPA DHA that comes out of eating a fish product. And anybody that's on that says, oh, sardines have mercury, just add cilantro to the diet, and that actually chelates mercury out with some dulce flakes as a binding agent, allows mercury to attach to it and excrete out of the system. And then I'll go through a period of a week where I'll feed pumpkin every day to them, just canned organic pumpkin, and I'll put a little bit in there to increase their magnesium levels.
Awesome. Where do you source your tripe?
Actually, I get it from Colorado Raw Dog. And
you do? Okay.
And it's green tripe, so it's untreated contents of the cow's stomach.
So that's an important point, because I've seen tripe, and most everybody has, at the grocery store, just the regular grocery store, and it is white. And that is bad news, because it's bleached and there are chemicals that are on that tripe. So what you're looking for if you are wanting to feed tripe is green tripe that has all of the contents in it, and it smells terrible, but it's amazing stuff.
Nicki, I can't tell you how terrible it smells. I cut some up last night. Oh, I think the smell is still it. The smell was on my hands for like an hour after.
Yeah,
I was like, it's a gag reflex. But sadly, I started to get used to it, and I'm like, nope, I don't want to get used to this smell at all. And just think of it as like a feedlot gone bad.
Oh, so bad.
Drive over western Nebraska and you pass the feedlot, you're like, oh, you mean I can smell that every day? Awesome. So you made a great point. Green tripe, untreated. You want it right from the cow. Because if your dog is a scavenger, and if it came upon a dead cow, it would eat the contents of the stomach. And as a dog eats, I'm going to get a little gross here, but when your dog scavenges, and they actually have studied wolves, when they reintroduced wolves back into Yellowstone, they actually were able to study the wolf eating cycles. So this whole act of
sorry, dogs.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. So what they did is when they studied, when the wolves would bring down an elk, the first thing they would eat were the entrails. They would eat the tripe out of because that's what they wanted. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, you can feed tripe every day. Just have it as an addition to the actual phosphorus that you're putting, muscle meat that you put in that's mixed with bone and organ. And so that's why, that's why I love this test too, is what happens is when I feed my dogs, Leo's not telling me, I'm feeling a little calcium deficient right now.
Yeah.
Can't tell me anything. The only thing I can see is how soft is their coat,
Mhm.
and are they as active as they were? Are they salivating? Are they drinking too much water? Does their health look good? And it's my
Right.
subjective. So I wanted an objective way to test them. And so when
Mhm.
I test them, I can tell you if I have their food formulated correctly. Because you had said it very aptly, Nicki, is that every dog is different, just
Mhm.
like you eat things differently than I do.
Yeah, we all have different needs. I wanted to tell you there are two things that I have done after talking with you when we met back a few months or so ago, whenever it was. But
Worried
and
about this too.
no, it's good. It's really good. So I want people to hear this because I think that this is really cool. And so what we would sometimes do and sometimes not do, but I think a lot of people do, is they mix everything together because there's some things that they think the dog won't eat. So they won't eat the vegetables, or they won't eat whatever, or whatever it might be.
Sure.
But the dog's going to eat what it needs to eat, and it's not going to eat what doesn't need to eat. And so I purchased, they're like pasta bowls, big fat pasta bowls. So they're, low and then flat. So I have the ability now to put the meat in one place, and my meat and bone and organ is the same. Right now it's turkey, so I have to add beef liver. We have to have beef liver for the copper content. And then I can put the egg in a place. I can put the, if I have some bone broth, I can put it in a place. I can do whatever veg I have in a place, or, everything. So it's all separated, but I do put if I'm doing like a liver support supplement, I'll hide that in the meat. But I know they're going to eat what they want to eat, and really they usually eat it all, which is good. But
Carolina dog, yeah.
Yeah, talk about hunters and scavengers. Yeah, it's the epitome of the Carolina dog. But it's true. I mean, but it is fun to watch because I'll watch them and see what they eat first. And it's really intriguing because it's not always the meat. If I have the liver there, it's usually the liver. It might be the bone broth. And the second thing that I wanted to tell you was I went and found some raw goat milk. And awesome. I have the raw goat milk. Actually, I'm out now, but I bought the raw goat milk, set it out on the counter, let it ferment. I just would add to the jar, every time. So it was nice and stinky.
Oh yeah.
That might have been the first thing they went for. They loved it. And so, yeah, it was amazing. It was really great stuff.
The probiotics and enzymes you just put into their gut, and their immune system will get better. Now, have you noticed their coat gets a little softer?
Well, I only had 5 bags, so I did it for about a week and a half or 2 weeks, and then I ran out. So I've got to go get some more.
Yeah.
So I haven't noticed it yet, but.
No, and when you talk to like Billy Oakham over at Answers Pet Food, and he leaves his goat milk out on the counter, and he's like up on stage telling 300 people this. And he goes, now, I can't say to do this because it's raw goat milk, but really your dog has a pH level of 1.8 to 2 inside their stomach. So all those pathogens that would make us severely ill, it doesn't for your dog.
Yeah.
Your dog can burn those out and really has no issues by leaving goat milk out on the counter.
No, it's fine.
Allowing it to ferment. I love it.
Well, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to throw it out there just as a real whole food nutritionist. And what I truly believe about food is we've been eating fermented foods since the beginning of time. And milk is one of those, whether it's, cow or sheep. It doesn't mean, or goat. And it doesn't mean, or camel, right? Doesn't mean that that everybody needs it. And hey, no more. Sorry. And it doesn't mean that everybody should have milk or everybody should have something fermented, because we're all different and our gut's different. But if it's raw and it's fermented, I think it's better. If it's pasteurized, it's not better because it's not a real food. It's a dead food. There's nothing to it anymore. And then it won't ferment. It just will get bad.
Mhm.
So that's the difference. And if you're sourcing it from a good, healthy source, they're taking care of their animals. They're out in the pasture. They're not giving them a bunch of junk. They're not putting, goop and antibiotics and junk on their udders and all of these terrible things that conventional farmers do to our animals, which
Yeah.
it just makes me crazy the way our farm animals are treated. I just want to get sick to my stomach because it's terrible.
Mhm.
But anyway, point is, I think nobody say that I told you to do this, but I would do it if I wanted. I mean, I would eat the raw goat milk in a heartbeat for my own probiotics. I think there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, I mean, being that you're really close to it and you're looking at all that stuff and you're really being aware of what does a bad one look like and what's a good one look like.
Mhm.
I am with you with fermentation. Fermentation is the way we actually kept food for long periods of time way
Yeah.
back when. And we haven't evolved. I mean, I'm a caveman wearing a blue sweater right now. That's it. I mean, go back
Yeah.
5,000 years. I was a
Mhm.
hunter gatherer and I
Yeah.
would gather my food and I was an omnivore and I could eat all this stuff. And a dog would follow me because I was a food source for
Yeah.
the dog. They would eat
Yep.
my scraps. They are
Mhm.
scavengers.
Yep.
And we had a really good relationship back and forth because
Mhm.
they would help me hunt. They could avoid, they could notify me of danger. They could chase danger away if it
Mhm.
was, but yeah, they wanted me around. So to think that the way we feed our dogs today is right is kind of crazy.
It's
Like with kibble,
insane.
it's insane.
We have had the wool pulled over our eyes for a really long time, and it's really sick is what it is.
And take a look at us. Look at all the processed foods as
Mhm.
human beings we eat. And we're now starting to see all of these autoimmune conditions on the
Mhm.
rise. And
Everywhere.
and it's catastrophic. So then if you all you do is give somebody an autoimmune condition and then you put fear and worry within them and stress, and it just is that cyclical effect you were talking about, and it
Yep.
just spirals down because we are not really taking care of ourselves and I think loving ourselves the way that we should.
Not
We
at
do
all.
things just quickly.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. We want the quick answers and the quick fixes, and we don't want to take the time to rest and to meditate because we're busy. And I
Yeah.
get it. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur. My husband's an entrepreneur. You're an entrepreneur. And being an entrepreneur with everything else that life is about, or
Mhm.
just having a family, right? I mean,
Right.
life is busy. Life is crazy. But
Mhm.
if we don't take care of ourselves, then we're not going to be healthy, and that's when the diseases come up. If we are stressed, for one, stress shrinks the brain, so
Yep.
that's a problem if we're not thinking properly because the stress is
Mhm.
shrinking our brain.
Right.
But two, it literally changes our biochemistry, creates
Mhm.
inflammation, and whatever you might be predisposed to, so whether it's autoimmune disease, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, whatever it might be, or multiple, that's what it's going to come up and manifest as. And so we think, well, it's genetic and, this is our family, or, it's just the, bad luck of the draw or whatever it is. It's not. Everything that we
Mhm.
deal with is lifestyle disease, except for like
Yep.
5% or less of the diseases, which are true genetic diseases.
Absolutely. And then if you study epigenetics, which is your thought process and energy levels changing your molecular structure, you're really starting your health journey in utero when
Right.
you're born.
Yeah, before that, I would say
Yeah.
before that, they're showing that epigenetics, that those changes are now moving 7 generations down. It's
Mhm.
crazy. So the decisions my great 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 grandmother made,
Mhm.
or however far that goes back, I don't know, is part of who I am now. And
Yep.
so you think of um, the stressors that people will go through in war or in concentration camps and things like that. They're seeing those epigenetic markers generations down the line. It's amazing. But
Yep.
that's the most interesting thing that I try to, when I'm working with my fertility clients, that I really want to get across to them is, I know you're in a big hurry to start a family, but let's stop. Let's take a step back. let's make sure you're in the very best place you can be mentally, emotionally, physically, that you have all of your nutrients in the right place, that you're eating well, you're not inflamed, all of these things, because where you are now will affect baby.
Yep, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And it affects your dogs too. I mean, take a look at stress, and your dogs are feeling creatures. That's all they do is feel. They can't talk. They can't do anything.
They're so great.
And I mean, come home sad. Your dogs know you're sad.
Yeah.
I mean, this morning I made a mistake and got my dogs all fired up about eating breakfast, and they are bouncing around and tearing up the living room just because my energy went up. They match my energy. They match my sadness. They match my stress. They match everything I have. And there are some practitioners out there that say that the state you're in right now, even though your dog is not with you, feels that how you feel. Feels how you feel.
Well, it's energy, right? I mean,
energy.
I would assume that's what it is. It's bizarre to think about, but that's all we are, is a bunch of energy. And so we feel each other's energy. They feel our energy, vice versa. I mean, that's how, we're all connected. Like our entire universe, we're connected by energy.
Yeah. And I could go down a thread that really what you and I would geek out about it, but everybody ought to be like, you guys are crazy. But yeah, I mean, and they've got stats and studies that show the proof and validity of how much energy, because when you look inside the actual cell itself, there's a nucleus and nothing else.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's all open space. And so really it's that, the vibrational changes and how we do all that kind of thing. So yes, you make a really good point for parents that come in that are looking to conceive and start their family. I really think having your mind correct and really setting it up, the universe gives, and whether God, universe, whatever you believe in, really provides when you are ready for it.
Yes, it's true. It's true. I have multiple clients who were told they could not conceive, and then they did, because they came to a place in many ways where they were just ready for it, and it was time. Yeah.
From both parties. Well, Nicki, I enjoyed this so much. So guys, keep an eye out. Nicki and I will be doing this every week, and we're just going to be having a good conversation like this every week. And we hope you guys enjoy the conversation we have, and definitely put out some comments. If you have some topics you want to talk about, put it in the comment section of this video. You're going to be able to do that. And also follow Taste Life Nutrition and follow Nicki Burnett. If you're on my side and you want to know more about Nicki, follow Nicki. She is a wealth of knowledge. And that's why I'm so pleased that we met Nicki, because it is such a joy to talk to you.
Yeah, this is going to be a ton of fun. And same, follow Matt, follow Parsley Pet. They've got some really good information on their Facebook page. I'm super excited. I always want to comment and, put pictures of the dogs on there. So
you should. Yeah. I want to see your babies.
Yeah, I'll put some pictures up today.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Thanks for being a part of this today. And we'll see you next week.
All right. Thank you. See ya.
See ya.